And this is the special extra video that I do each day. It's about 3 minutes long, and it just basically I'm calling it How to Study the Bible for Yourself. In other words, I want to equip you with a toolbox, all right? A toolbox that is a variety of things that are always going to be true that you can use for yourself to understand what's going on when you read the scripture. What's the lens through which we view the scripture? What are the tools that we use to work on it and chip away and rightly interpret it? Well, each day we're going to talk about a little bit of a different sort of thing. Today, I want to talk about the word context. Context means the verses around and the situation around and the author and the audience around a particular verse. The truth is, you can't understand a word of something without broader context. In fact, a lot of words can mean multiple things, even in English, right? Without a broader context. For instance, if I use the word trunk, you might be like, is he talking about trees? Or is he talking, some of you probably thought elephant, right? An elephant's nose, right? Or maybe some of you were like car, right? Or, like a box in grandma's attic, right? Like a luggage trunk. And you don't know which one I mean unless I give you more context. Like I say, I bumped into a trunk and some oranges fell. You're like, oh, okay, he's probably talking about a tree, right? So you get the idea. This is what context does. Now, the context in any passage of scripture is about who said it, who did they say it to, and why. That's the first three questions of context. Who said this, all right? And in this case, it's Matthew, who is a tax collector who has turned into a disciple of Jesus, right? He was working for the Roman government, and Jesus invites him to come and follow him. And so he does, and his life is forever transformed. Matthew, as a tax collector, would have been kind of an outcast from his family because Jews not very friendly toward Jews who were working for the Roman government at that time. They hated the Romans. And so he would have been kind of an outcast from his family, most likely. And so Jesus welcomes an outcast, and this outcast's life is changed by what he sees and the teaching that he hears. And he finds something bigger than the Roman government and more meaningful than governmental work to give himself to. And so that is Matthew. And he writes it mostly for a Jewish audience. So he's going to give a lot of prophecies and try to convince Jews that Jesus is the Messiah, which is a word that means their rightful ruler, their expected king. All right. So that's who he wrote. That's who wrote it. That's who he wrote it to. And then why did he write it? Because he was trying to prove that Jesus is the Messiah. So the first thing you want to understand always is context. So if you hear a verse like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13, you want to know who wrote it. That's Paul. Who did he write it to? The church at Philippi. Why did he write it? You need to look at the verses around it. All right. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but that's the first tool in your toolbox is context. Who wrote it? Who did they write it to? And why did they write it? All right. See you tomorrow.